didn't mean to clap for myself, but I did. I meant it for y'all and for everybody here. It's a pleasure to be back. This is the third year I've had an opportunity. Y'all, there's plenty of spaces in front if you need it, and we get to feel like a connection to y'all if you sit up front. But this is the third year I've hosted this panel, and it's a joyful thing. Ellen sends me books. They arrive in the mail. I get this stack of books. I get to dive in and then come back up from that dive to talk with smart people. And in a bunch of different ways, I engineered this panel. Like, these are my friends. These are people I respect. That's one of the joys of getting to do this is Ellen says, okay, who do you want on your panel? And I wanted every one of these people for differing reasons. So definitions of the South, we're here to talk about Southern culture. And so definitions of the South typically depend on geography or secession. Historically, they've depended upon that. The former defines a broad swath of land comparable in size and sweep to Western Europe. The latter relies on a rejected political gambit defined by brutality and willful ignorance. And to my mind, neither one of those things suit geography or secession. There are other ways, better ways. To my mind, what we think of as Southern culture is an ongoing process, a menu of dishes, a call and response between many different people who claim many different origin stories. I see this region and hear this region, more importantly for what we're going to do today, I hear this region like it's a jukebox of 45s clicking into the machine and playing. I learned to think about this region studying at the Center for the Study of Southern Culture at the University of Mississippi, one of the sponsors for this panel. That program in Southern Studies is interdisciplinary, and so will be this conversation today. Think about this as kind of a micro semester in graduate school. A lot more fun, a lot shorter. Think about this in that way. If you think about the moment ago, I just said I hear this region like it's a jukebox of 45s. That thing's going to come back up in just a second after I introduce my interdisciplinary colleagues. So on my far end is Eli Cranor, who played quarterback in college over in Arkansas, played quarterback professionally in Sweden, and as he began to write, he developed a nationally syndicated sports column called, inevitably, Athletic Support. In 2022, Mr. Cranor's debut novel, Don't Know Tough, won the Edgar Allan Poe Award for Best First Novel. It was named one of the best novels of the year by the New York Times. His next two novels, Ozark Dogs and Broiler. Broiler is my favorite. Read them all, but Broiler is a great meditation on identity and Mexican-American contributions to this place we call home. The latter published in 2024. He serves the Arkansas Tech as a writer in residence. He's here to talk about Mississippi Blue 42. Let me magically pull a copy of that book.
I got it, John.
He's got a copy. I got a copy. Everybody should have a copy. Next to him, my friend Alice Randall of Nashville, Tennessee, a best-selling novelist, award-winning songwriter, educator, food activist, and now memoirist, the ultimate interdisciplinarian, Miss Alice Randall. A graduate of Harvard University, she teaches at Vanderbilt University and credits Detroit's Ziggy Johnson School of Theater with being the most influential educational institution in her life. Ask her about it. She's the only black woman in history to write a #1 country song, X's and O's. You know the song. Yeah. You know Alice's words in that way. My Black Country, her newest book, which I magically pull from the back here. Both the memoir and there's also an accompanying album reflect her storied and beautiful career. Finally, next to me, I almost pulled my own book out. That'd be bad, wouldn't it? Is Tom Piazza. Tom's books include the nonfiction bestseller Why New Orleans Matters and the novels The Auburn Conference and A Free State. My favorite is the latter. I told Tom this at dinner last night. Free State is a drama that centers much of the story on a minstrel show and reads like a telling metaphor for today. I really admire it and I recommend it to you, as well as I recommend this book, this newest book. He's a 4-time winner of the ASCAP Deems Taylor Award for music writing. He lives in New Orleans, Louisiana, living in the present with John Prine. So we had dinner together last night at the Mayflower, had redfish, onion rings, plenty comeback sauce, a great time. And in that moment was hatched a way to embrace the interdisciplinary nature of this conversation we want to have. And we realized common interest in music and in stories we might tell of the South. And that took us somewhere. Where does it take us, Eli?
Yeah, we're opening with a song. Where it's like,
Go ahead, man.
You noodling with me? Are you doing the thing with me?
I'll do the chorus with
Okay, you're not playing?
Oh, you want me to play with you?
Yeah, dude.
Remember, this was last night we figured this out.
We kind of rehearsed in the
Let's make sure we-
hospitality room. Well, I am an old woman named after my mother. Old man is another child is grown. Dreams a lot of money. I never desired this old house to burn down a long time. Build me an angel, cries from the gutter. Pick me a poster. Just give me one thing I can hold on to. Believe that this living is not always close.
And who wrote that song?
John Prine.
All right. His name's going to come back up, that guy, John Prine.
I'm going to tell you about when I first heard about John Prine.
Come a little close. Scoot the mic up a little closer to you, Alice.
I want to hear this. This is great.
It's only 4 paragraphs. I hated that farm, but it taught me a few things. I learned more complete meanings of certain significant country words. Weeding strawberries, I learned backbreaking was shooting pain, not a material split of bone. Getting raped to the sound of crickets, to the sound of rain, I learned that a plantation was not moonlights and magnolias, but crickets, rain, and blood. But there was one good thing, and it was a country music thing. A John Prine tape cassette. I found it discarded in the back of a drawer. Prine was sitting on a hay bale with another hay bale stacked behind him. He's wearing jeans and a denim shirt. His guitar is leaning against the bales. Giving the look of the thing, I'm surprised I stuck it in the tape player. Prine on that cover isn't Marvin Gaye pretty or Greg Allman pretty like I like pretty boys. But I stuck it in, listened to that cassette like I read books from start to finish, like it or not. Apologize for the upcoming language if anyone's easily shocked. I didn't like it. I didn't love it. I seized it like a lifeline. I meshed with the motherfucker. The songwriting was a little good, words and music, more detail in the stories, enough space for me to get inside a song and walk around it in it, pouring out some of everything, haunting me into it, and everything inside that song was beautiful. The Prine song that let me stretch out like that, like I once stretched out inside of Lil's Just for a Thrill. Angel from Montgomery. Prine's country song about houses that burn up, abusive silences, destructive desire, Alabama, cowboys, rodeos, and the need to have one thing to hold on to became my one thing. And I was fortunate enough to become a good friend of John Prine's long after I was saved by that song. And his Oh Boy Records put out my album last year, and we got Grammy nominated.
Excuse me, it's on me. Okay. Excuse me. That was beautiful. So my book, Living in the Present with John Prine, came out of a experience I was more than just fortunate to have. We became very good friends the last 2 years of his life. I did an article for you all know the Oxford American magazine, so I'd done I went on a road trip with John in Florida, and out of that came an article about that experience. But we became sort of instant best friends. It was just one of those things. You ever had an instant best friend? You know, sort of like somebody you just kind of were in the pocket with right away. So I'm so sorry. I'm not getting emotional. Just some water went down the wrong way. Anyway, so that was it, and he had 2 years of great friendship, and he and his wife Fiona Prine would visit us down in New Orleans, my wife and me, and I'd visit up there. We spent long nights, you know, playing guitar and sitting around the dining room table. And a year and a half in, I'm so sorry for this. A year and a half in, he asked me to write his memoir with him, and we got a great start on that memoir at the end of February 2020. And we made arrangements to meet in 2 weeks and continue it. But in that time, COVID went from being like a concern that people were a little freaked out about to being what it became. Mm-hmm. And a few weeks after that, John succumbed to COVID, died from COVID. So that memoir never happened in the form that we anticipated it happening. And so I was kind of left with the question of, you know, what to do about that, what to do with this, and because the stuff that we got done on the memoir is absolutely fantastic. So, and then there was my friendship and the love that actually kind of obtained between us. So out of that need to somehow make shape out of all that came this book, Living in the Present with John Prine. Sorry for taking so much.
Thank you. So in the world of TV, what we've just done is a cold open. So you're left a little bit wondering how all this fits together, and hopefully you're compelled to listen as we go. The first question I aim to ask everybody is the one that Tom has already answered by way of introducing his book. And it's, what's the world you aim to introduce us to with your book? Put us in a place, put us in a moment, drop us into your book. Tom's done that for his relationship with John Prine, which is the spine of his book. So Eli, if you would lead us off, drop us into the world you will introduce us to as readers of Mississippi Blue 42.
Cool. I'll give you a cold open too.
All right.
So imagine it's like 2013, it's the Cotton Bowl, national championship. Imagine like in this quarterback limps up to take the snap. It's every scene you've ever seen. The University of Central Mississippi Chiefs, a fictional team that I've created for this book. They're down 5, a touchdown wins it. He gets ready to bark for the snap, blue 42, and then imagine just the scene cuts. And what this book is to me, in that moment, you think there are only 2 options. You can win or you can lose, right? Like that's why we watch football. But Aristotle said the best endings are surprising yet inevitable. And so what I spend the rest of this novel doing is peeling back all of these layers, because also in this scene, you're focused on the quarterback, but you're in a stadium with 80 to 100,000 people, and there's boosters, and there's bagmen, and there's gridiron girls, and there's all sorts of these hangers-on that make up this beautiful soap opera that we love, and it's about to happen at 6 o'clock tonight when the Arkansas Razorbacks take on the Ole Miss Rebels. And what I tried to do as a guy who played college football, as a guy who has written about football before, is everywhere I went, people were talking about NIL. Like, that's all anybody wants to talk about, if you're listening to this. So I went back. I graduated in 2010, and there was this great article called Meet the Bagman that came out from SB Nation, and it was just about how players were always kind of getting paid. Like always, not kind of, but especially like at big college football programs, there were these whole infrastructures built around paying players. And so I just thought it was really interesting in this moment to like go back, and the book is told through a fictional federal investigation, centers around like this rookie FBI agent whose father is a big-time college football coach, and that's why she gets stuck on this college football case for her first case. So as she's learning all the things her father's kept from her, we're all slowly also learning what this world of college football is really about. So that's Mississippi Blue 42. And I'm from Arkansas, yes, from eastern Arkansas, was born in Forest City, so in the Delta region. And people ask, that was the first question John T. asked me in Oxford. He's like, so why is this book set in Mississippi? And because there's only one university in Arkansas. So if I made a fictional university in Arkansas, I might have been willing to take on Big Chicken like I did in Broiler, which is what that book's about, the chicken. But I couldn't fictionalize but also I love Mississippi. So yeah.
And for the Faulkner readers out there, what's the name of the stadium?
Yeah, so it's Sutpen Stadium. Compson, Mississippi is the name of the town.
And how many yards are there in a stadium?
How many yards?
Uh-huh.
What are you talking about?
How many yards on a football field?
120.
But 100, you count off Sutpen's 100, man. I'm trying to Faulkner. Come on. Whoop. Sorry.
Blew my hair off.
Y'all reference,
Yeah,
he's
there's a
referencing
lot.
Absalom in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I was the English. I played quarterback. I was an English literature major. Cut my teeth on Southern Lit. So, yeah, I was just not a lot of the football readers. Maybe they'll slip them, but for the ones that see the Easter eggs, I'm thankful.
All right. Alice, take us to your world.
Well, my world is the world of Black country. My Black country is 3 different things. It is nonfiction, so it is the history of Black people in country music. It is my 40-year history as a Black woman writing and publishing country music, and it's about a little bit of my personal story of why I came to love it. I am a professor. I'm thrilled to be the Andrew W. Mellon Chair in the Humanities at Vanderbilt, so I am going to do the English thing and say that if you remember one thing from this book, that there is a first family of Black country, and that I am introducing an alternative origin story for country music that I think is documented in archival fact. And it celebrates the thing I love most about Southern culture, our Southern food and Southern music, and that's how I define it. And both of them, and basically I think it's one part English, Irish, and Scottish ballad forms, plus African influences, plus evangelical Christianity. As I say throughout, and that's the world I am exploring throughout this book. Because if you don't have the evangelical Christianity, you might have a blues song. And if you don't have the Black influences, you might have a folk song. It takes all 3 of those, I think, music and food, to be actually country. And I think the other part that I will tell you, which may come as a shock, is my origin story is these 5 people. Lil Hardin Armstrong, the very first million-selling country record, and we start off with the single, which I loved, was Blue Yodel No. 9, Jimmie Rodgers. But there were 3 geniuses on that, and 2 of them were Black. The other 2, we know it's Jimmie Rodgers, but it was Lil Hardin Armstrong who went to Fisk, and it was Louis Armstrong on that. That's the first million-selling country record. The first person to play on WSM after the words Grand Ole Opry was spoken for the first time in 1927. D4 Bailey, a Black man. Their genius child is Ray Charles, who put out Modern Sounds and Equestrian Western in the 60s, which my Willie Nelson says is his favorite country album of all time. On the side is Country as Cornbread, Charlie Pride. You can read the story. I knew him all through my career until he died. He was the first Black man after D4 to be on the Opry, Entertainer of the Year. You know Charlie Pride, so I won't tell you more about him. That's D4's side child, but Herb Jeffries, you might not know, that's Lil's stepchild, the Browns Buckaroo, who actually made a series in the 30s and 40s of Black singing cowboy westerns that influenced everyone. He was so popular that Herbie Hancock was actually named by his parents for Herb Jeffries. But these singing cowboy movies influenced the white Gene Autry. They influenced, had a profound influence on country that's been denied. And in fact, Warner Brothers recorded Herb Jeffries into the 21st century. So that's my first family of Black country. It's an alternative to, Mother Maybelle, who learned so much of what she did from actually a Black man, and Jimmie Rodgers himself acknowledged that Black influence. So that is the world. Bill Monroe got his start playing for D Ford. He used to play. So anyway, it's understanding, and the thing is, and there's other influences, but country music is an inherently an Afro-Celtic and evangelical Christian form. And so, and to me, that's sort of a metaphor for so much of the South.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for the easy understanding of the South, and then in different ways, each of y'all's books kind of subverts easy understandings of the South. And I wondered if y'all would talk about that. One of the things, my job in reading your books and preparing for this panel is to find the places where your narratives connect to look for the tensions where they disconnect too. And one of the things that has struck me reading your books is each book really depends on this tension that you pull through the book, like a narrative thread. And I want you to talk about, as writers, how you embrace a tension, and that tension becomes almost propulsion for a book. You can choose whatever tension within your book you want to define. But Eli, would you start us out?
Sure. So as you can tell by the cover, if you can see it, this doesn't give anything away. So she gets down there to Mississippi. Her name's Ray Johnson, and she does not, this is a rookie case, rookie investigation. She's first in her class. She's heart set on Joint Terrorism Task Force. And then she gets stuck in Mississippi on a white-collar crime, like fraud investigation, which is not sexy. It's like not what she wants. And she knows why she wants to do it. It's because, or she knows why they want her to do it, like, as I said, because of her dad. And it takes about, there's one of my favorite scenes is the second chapter. You get the game scene. And this quarterback is supposed to throw a game against Southern Miss. He's supposed to lose a game, and he doesn't. He sees Brett Favre in the corner of the end zone, and he's so inspired by seeing Favre, which was his favorite player, that he goes on ahead and wins it. And as a result, he later falls from the top story of a college bar's roof, and when he hits the ground, a bunch of money puffs out of the bag he's holding. So now it's like wide open, now, and that is the tension that John T's talking about. Now, as viewers, as people who have, whatever your level of innocence with college football may or may not be, if something like that were to happen, you couldn't look away, right? Like now we can't, and Ray can't look away either. So for the rest of that book, she is slowly trying to figure out the truth of the case. Did he fall? Was he pushed? What about this game they were playing against Southern Miss? All these little cases, which also, so there's that just kind of plot tension. But then there's just the tension that I try to really, like I mentioned Favre and stuff, like there's a level of humor that I try to play with here too, like dark humor, in some ways almost satirical, because it's a game that we're talking about, right? And we all, in the South, we often forget that, that there's pageantry, there's pride. So I tried to really kind of keep the tension turned up, but also keep a meter on things that I thought, we've seen the headlines, right? Where, as a matter of fact, if anyone can tell me the coach who infamously has baptized players after practices in ice baths, if you know this answer, then you can raise your hand and I'll give you this copy of this book. Does anybody know? So this is a real thing. So this is what I'm saying. Like, this is a real headline, like, that happened probably 7 or 8 years ago, where a coach was baptizing players after a practice in ice baths. Like what you like go and get your, nobody knows? Okay. No? Good guess, though. Nobody? Not Mike Leach. It is Dabo. You see me after, yeah. And so there's a lot of these things in this book which are like, I had so much fun playing with the things that are like, did he just, like, is it crazy? Like, is Eli just being crazy? And like, or some of you who've watched, like, you'll be like, oh, damn, like, that really happened. Like, he's pulling from that. So anyway, long answer. Thanks, John.
No, good answer.
Love that answer.
And like, for a writer, you develop the tension and you pluck the string. Like, Eli playing his instrument a moment ago, you develop the tension, you pluck the string, and the story's off. Tom, I think about at the end of your book, you talk about John Prine recognizing that some people see him as an abstraction and others were able to relate to him on a human basis. And that's one of the tensions I think about in your book that carries through the whole thing and ends there with that observation. But I bet you have others you'd rather talk about.
That quote or idea that you're alluding to was after John died, I took a trip up to Indiana to talk to his longtime guitarist, Jason Wilbur, fantastic guitarist in his own right. And we were talking about the nature of fame, of being well known. And what Jason said was that, the main thing that famous people really want, most famous people, unless they've really got some serious psychological problems, what most famous people really want is just to like be talked to as if they're a normal person. You know, and so many of us in the kind of celebrity culture and mass communication culture develop very two-dimensional experiences of other people in general, but especially the famous people. So that's what that went back to. But when you're talking about what tension is in the book, there are so many that you could bring up, but really in this book, it's called Living in the Present with John Prine. And the reason I titled it that was that John had very, very serious health challenges. Not all that far into his career, about 20 years into his career, he developed a neck. I don't want to bum you all out by talking about it, but it's part and parcel of the book. He developed a cancer in his neck, and he had to get an operation which threatened his vocal cords. Now, you know, if you're a professional vocalist and singer and guitar player, which he was, and songwriter, that's a big problem. But he had that operation done, and it changed his voice. His voice went down a couple registers. But frankly, I think he sounded a lot better, right? His voice had more character, oddly enough, after that. So that was in the late 1960s. And they went back to touring. I mean, like a lot of great artists, that was what he did, man. He just wanted to get out there and do it. Do the thing, whatever it is. Paintings, you know, writing books, whatever your thing is. That was his thing. And about not quite 20 years after that, he had lung cancer in 2013. And he came back after that. By this exercise regimen he went on, he started touring the world again. So he was a remarkable person, but there was always in his life, but certainly in our friendship, those last 2 years of his, I met him in 2018. We went and did that road trip article for the Oxford American. You know, that sense of mortality hovering, you know, was never, it wasn't like it wasn't part of the fabric of our understanding of what our friendship was about. Not that that was ever really talked about that much, except in certain very matter-of-fact ways in passing, you know. So I think in some kind of way that gave an added vividness to the time that we spent together. John was funny. John was very fun. You all know Barry Hanna's writing, right? Great Mississippi author Barry Hanna. I heard him say one time, he said, "Good old boys know there's something unsmiling at the heart of things, and that's why we like to laugh." And I always felt like John was, in a way, kind of exhibit A of that. And if it's okay, I'm going to read a short, like a page.
Please.
Just from the beginning of the book, they'll give you a little bit of maybe like a little capsule sense of him, because, you know, you can talk about stuff a lot. But the main thing I tried to do in this book was bring John into the present, if that isn't too much of a leap to make. I wanted his presence to be felt on the page, so that's what I was trying to do really in the writing. But this is the way the article started, short. I should tell you, well, it'll be apparent in this. This is me talking. I'm leaning against a cherry red 1977 Coupe de Ville at a Citgo station in Gulfport, Florida, waiting for the car's owner to emerge from the attached convenience store. It's got to be at least 95 degrees out here, and the heat waves coming off the football field-size hood are hypnotic. They bring out the deep luster of the paint job with its overtones of nail polish, lipstick, and Mad Dog 2020. Nobody drinks Mad Dog 2020 anymore. It takes a while, but John Prine finally appears, wearing a big smile and carrying 2-gallon jugs of water. "Just in case," he says. "That's a long bridge coming up." We're headed for Sarasota, and between it and us stretches a very long causeway, the kind where they tell you to check your gas level before you start across. The car was only just delivered to him 2 days ago, and aside from a turn or two around the block, this is its first serious drive. I should say, he bought the car on eBay. A 77 Coupe de Ville, for God's sake. He bought it on eBay for $10,000. He bargained the seller down from $13,500. This is John Prine. Anyway, so he's got these gallons of water. Okay, so I said, "Isn't there cooler in the radiator?" And he said, I don't know. We'll find out. When it starts smoking, we'll pull over and get a beer. Prine radiates, this sort of a coda to that, Prine radiates a sense of well-being, along with a sort of amused nonchalance toward potential disaster. This is a good thing because the coupe, as it turns out, has no passenger side safety belt. Or rather, it has a shoulder belt, but the thing on the seat into which it is supposed to latch is missing. I noticed this a while back. It's okay, he's safe though. There's no disaster in the book? Okay. Sometimes people don't want to face real. Anyway, I noticed this a while back, and it worried me for a few minutes. But then I thought, if you're going to buy the farm, it might as well be in a 77 Coupe de Ville with John Prine. Anyway, and but the end of the book, and this I'll just close out with this. The end of the book is about us beginning this memoir that he wanted to write together. He said, he said, we could just do what we always do and get paid for it, which always sounded good to me. And so, which is to say, just sitting around drinking, playing guitar until 3 a.m, coming out with Jimmy Rogers songs and Hank Williams songs or whatever it might be, and just having a blast and telling stories and cracking each other up. But when COVID hit, and it hit him. And he was one of the first really sort of high-profile, if you want to say, people who succumbed to that disaster. And so the final, let's say, quarter of the book or whatever was sort of trying to figure out what to do about that. Where do you put the ashes? What do you write on the tombstone, figuratively or literally, And how do you walk away, without turning your back? So the book is about all that joy and all that good times and the friendship, and it's about mortality and gratitude. Anyway, there you go. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Alice?
I think the biggest tension, or the twin tension in this book, is one loving an art form that doesn't love you back. When I arrived in Nashville to be a country songwriter, I remember meeting with one of my idols, and in fact, I would even say who it was, Billy Joe Shaver. And we were at with a bunch of other people, and Billy Joe stepped back about closer, like 3 feet back, not as far as you are now, and he said, the friends we're with. And they agree, he said this, they're alive, he's not. I've been at this too long if I have to compete for cuts with, and he said the N-word, girls from Harvard. What? And I stepped towards him and I said, I am, and you do. And I am proud to say that my biggest songs are actually bigger than Billy Joe Shaver's. I will not say whether my art is greater or not, but that shows a sign of him that doesn't get reported. Right. And he's so lauded and served. But now he shot somebody in the head in a parking lot that he had barely met. So I actually don't even think that was racist. And I think that's one of the cool things about me. I knew that Billy Joe was just crazy and insecure. And that in the face of some sane genius, he was shaken. So he should have shook. But on the other hand, and I love, and that's one of the things I talk about that book, that Billy Joe is just plain crazy. He shot somebody, a white man, in the parking lot in the head for no reason. But another thing I would say on the more serious, when I first showed up at Acuff Rose, Ronnie Gant, whose brother produced Jimmy Buffett, put his feet up on the desk, and he said, where are you from? And, the good side, I told you I didn't like that farm, but that farm was a very fancy farm in Middleburg. My stepfather was a wealthy, well-educated Harvard man. And he said, I think you should just go back to there. But I didn't. And one of his writers was the first person I wrote with in Nashville, and it was my first cut. It was a song called Reckless Night. And when that song, it was on a Warner Brothers album, came out, Ronnie Gant came to me and said, I did not help you. I'm not taking any of that publishing. And that there were so many people, ultimately, Bobby Braddock, who wrote He Stopped Loving Her Today, and DIVOC. I did get divorced from my very proper black husband, whose father was a state senator and a lawyer. And Bobby was my first date after with Rafe Van Hoy, who he had co-written Golden Ring with. So I felt a lot of support in the community, but in general, initially, there wasn't. The community I loved didn't necessarily love me back, but it ultimately did. Dance with Merle Haggard at one of my first big parties when I got a cut, because he understood I knew his songs, according to him. I understood them, analyzed them the same way I analyzed Jane Austen. And he so appreciated that. He and Bobby and Bob McDill so appreciated when I asked, how did I get to country music? The answer I would get back then is, from 17th century American metaphysical poetry, from Edward Taylor, that I realized when I heard Drop Kick Me Jesus to the Goal Post of Life, that a metaphysical poetry was alive and living in country music. And they appreciated that I, a black woman from Harvard, was actually paying attention to them, or saying to you that analyzing Seven Spanish Angels and making an argument why it's Jungian. On the other side of that was just the simple part. That I say country music, Harlan Howard, who I knew well, said it was 3 chords and the truth. And I said it's 3 chords and 4 very particular truths. Life is hard, God is real, the road, family, and liquor are significant compensations, and the past is better than the present. And I say the racial fault line in country is that often the past that's better than the present in some mainstream country is a mythologized Dixie. In the African influence in country, it's a long for and lost to Africa before colonization. But that idea the past is better than the present comes straight from 17th century, 18th century enslaved Africans who heard those, brought their banjos, heard those Celtic melodies, and they know the past is better than the present. So those were the tensions, loving a form that didn't always love me. Just yesterday, when we were riding to dinner, with John T., a black lady who I think is an elected official here in Jackson said, she was driving us, she was our Uber driver, and she said, what are you writing about? I said, black country music. She said, she didn't like any black country music. I said, do you like Ray Charles? And she did, but it's so wild that my community, when I first became a country songwriter out of Harvard, my father said he would have left me in anthropology if he knew in archaeology how much worse it could get. But he gave in an LA Times interview, when he was asked what his daughter was doing, he said it was something one step better than prostitution and one step worse than drug dealing, and wouldn't say what it was. That's how he perceived having a black daughter who graduated from Harvard and became a country songwriter. Because to him, country was a soundtrack to lynching, and it was where black genius had been erased. He's the one who told me that there was a black person on Blue Yodel number 9 that was well known in the black music community of Detroit, where I was born. So he told me about all these black contributions to country, even as he hated country.
Yeah. Whew. So we're going to open this up for questions in just a second, but before we do that, I want to ask y'all to answer a question that will take us way back up, to look back down on this conversation. So if you can, go short on this, not because I don't want to hear you talk, but because part of the exercise is going short here. So how would you define your relationship to the South, both as a place y'all live and or an idea that you turn in your head?
Me? Okay.
You spoke first,
I'm
go back.
first up. So I do think I'm going to speak on it through the lens of this book, because this book I had to set this book in the past to make sense of it. And what I mean by that is, like if I were trying to write a book about college football and all the money and all the stuff that's changing, but by the time that book actually came out, everything would be different. So if you tried to make it current. So I went back to 2013, 2014 for a couple reasons. And one of those reasons was that there were so many things in our culture that were experiencing a reckoning. Like just think back to that moment. We were on the cusp of all these different reckonings, all these different cultural reckonings. And for me, that's how I feel about the South. And that's how I feel about college football. As a guy who played, and a guy who, I was talking to Steve Yarbrough out there. Steve Yarbrough played college football as well for Delta State. And we were talking about, and I'm 37, and Steve was talking about all the different pains and stuff that he has from this game. He was talking about his sciatica. And he was like, damn, I'm really that old. I come up to you, and the first thing I start talking about is my sciatica, is what he's saying. And he's like, but just wait, young buck. You know, your days are coming. And I know, because, and I think that's a lot about how I feel about the South, too. You know, I mean, in your panel, you said it really well, like, and that's how I feel about college football. It's how I feel about the South. It's not a love-hate thing. It's just what you said. I love it. I love all of those things, but I am aware of the ways, you know, that even college football is violent and the ways that it could have negatively impacted my life. But I love what you said in there too, John T., which is it doesn't mean we can't work to make it better. And I think for me, that's what this book's about in the South and for college football.
I do love the South, and I think about, we do this work all the time of taking things that are too hard to bear and turn it into beauty that makes the hard bearable. And I think we're really good at that. When I was young and new to Nashville, my metaphor was the South was the abusive mother of country. The South was the abusive mother of Black culture, but its mother nonetheless. As I've gotten older, I wrote a song about that called Mother Dixie, I'm Coming Home. But I now see the South as actually, I think we have more experience with reconciliation and reckoning than the rest of the country. And so we have so much more to teach the rest of the country. And we actually have so much more experience with loving each other across divides. Because one of the reasons when I first came to Nashville that things did work with those Southerners, even different than Harvard, was I hardly met a white Southerner in Nashville in 1983 or 4 that did not have some Black person in their life they actually loved. Literally. And I could work for that love into some sense of justice and fairness for me.
Wow. I think what I'd have to say is in some ways really, really close to what you were just saying, Alice. But I guess for me, the way I'd put it is this. Boy, I gotta stop popping my peas. I'm from outside, forgive me, I'm from outside New York originally. From the south side of Long Island, all right? I was... the South. Anyway, but so I was from up there, but I always loved what I knew about the South, you know, with all the qualifications with all the complexity. And finally, I think that's what I ended up, I moved down here 31 years ago. Ain't looked back since. And one of the things that does happen to me when I go back up to see relatives or go up to see friends or, you know, make a trip to New York for business or whatever it might be, some business, selling a book, okay, but that's, you know. So I realize that after about 3 days, I feel like, get me out of here, man. Get me back down here. What is that? There's a degree of texture and complexity, even with all the stuff that's indigestible, even all the stuff that is just overwhelms you with its beauty and presence. That constant tension between the things that we love and the problems that stand in the way of it and the way we work on it. I say we, I hope I'm not sounding arrogant about it, but I can't ever feel myself as a Southerner because I was not born down here. But I don't feel myself as a Northerner, quote unquote, anymore either. What I feel is that this is the place I'm most comfortable because it's the most textured and the most interesting place, and it's the place where I felt the most at home. I can say that for sure. Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a soapbox speech, but that's how I feel about it.
No, I thought that was lovely, and I would suggest that wherever you may be born, you're defined by the place to which you contribute. You contribute in a profound way to the American South.
And I was born in Detroit, Michigan, but I say I am a totally Southerner because everybody in my neighborhood in Detroit was straight up from Alabama, including my grandparents. So I said I was born in Detroit, Alabama. I don't think the South is a geography. It is a curriculum of food and music. And so I was born in Detroit, but I was born Southern.
And
by the grace of God.
if you are looking for a book that explores this South idea of home, all that, John T's new memoir comes out on Tuesday, but you can get it today, here, early. So House of Smoke at the book tent.
Thank you, Eli.
Yeah.
This seems an appropriate moment to open up the questions to y'all. Please engage these smart and kind folks. Ask them questions that don't have to be smart. They can just be searching, and that's all good. Yes? Could y'all hear that in the back? Y'all hear okay?
He was referring to Fiona Prine, John's widow, wife for so many years. Became a dear friend along with everybody else in the family, and so she wrote a foreword to the book and said that John appreciated the fact that I respected the elder people in the family, and especially my, as she put it, aged mother, which my mom didn't like that particular designation, even though she was 98 when she read it. But, so I'm not sure what you're asking me. What are you asking me?
I'd like to hear about how John discarded folks who had no relationship with their mother.
Well, he discarded folks who he thought came on like phonies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if he thought that you wanted something from him or that you were trying to advertise yourself boastfully, you know, or look at me, or hey, John Prine, or whatever. He was immediately allergic to that. He would look for the first door out. So that's really what that section was about. That was true with John. He was an extremely friendly person, you know, but he also didn't really suffer fools gladly, you know, or fools is a strong word, but you know what I'm saying. That's about the best capsule answer I could give you. Yeah.
Other questions? I have questions, but don't let me jump in.
Which college football coach said, "Only Jesus can handle my junk"? It's a real quote. Okay, never mind.
Until that inopportune moment, this woman in the center here had a question. Could y'all hear that in the back? Yep, great.
She had a songwriting question. I'm going to give you a very brief answer, but say I'm available at alicevandal@aol.com if you want to know more about this, because I know a lot of people. You know, to me, I think songs are such an important part of our literature, since the sung poems of Homer. So to me, if you look at my Many Mansions, Mo Bandy was a title cut for his album. It's about the homelessness. It was in the 80s. It was the first charted song about homelessness. So I wrote about things I thought were important. My very first song, that one, Reckless Night, was about slut shaming and religious hypocrisy, and boys still singing in the choir and women who are pregnant getting thrown out of the church. So I think these... But I'm following in the tradition of Tom T. Hall and Bob McDill and Bobby Braddock writing about those things. That's one of the things I love about country, is it still takes itself very seriously about teaching people how to survive and to be wise, how to be wise. And prayers, will the circle be unbroken? So I think about something I think that the world needs, and then in some sort of, you need to get a title, a hook, and then you work on it. So that my process goes from, I never wrote love songs. I thought there were enough of them already, and nothing I knew about love was simple enough for a country song. So, that process is find a subject, find a hook, is for me what I do.
Yes, Mike.
Teach them to read. Because if you don't read, well, actually, this is actually so not true. I can't believe I was about to say it. Please just disregard everything I've said in this get-together. Of course, it's an oral tradition. But I think if we're talking about the next generation, a lot of the next generation doesn't really grow up in that oral tradition. They grow up in screens, you know? So that's why I say read. That was what my reflexive answer was. Yeah.
And I think we've got to tell people that the stories are very important, that's how you understand yourself, it's how you understand your family, it's how you understand your world. And to even understand, to make no specific political commentary, but to look at this, recognize everyone's always telling a story, and to evaluate between which of these stories are more important, which are more believable, which are more authentic. That if you're not understanding of stories, then I think you get connected to this emotional junk food of scrolling that isn't actually storytelling, it's some sort of drug. It's a story drug. That it's a story drug. It's not a storytelling, it's a story drug. And I think that there are people, I still read literally about 5 books a week. I said, I have a drug that never lets me down. Books. And they make me bigger and different all the time. But we have there are so few young people that have read 5 books in a month.
Yeah.
Or a year.
So, and I teach it. I'm the writer in residence at Arkansas Tech, and I also get to help out with the football team. So I love saying that. I might be the only writer in residence, but as a part of that, I teach a couple of creative writing courses every semester. And this is a question and that I battle with all the time, especially now with AI and that world, you know. So I have my AI speech, which I think kind of plays into this. And I talk about, like, the idea that in the publishing industry or the film industry, you know, if something really hits, there's a big movie, there's a big book, then those industries, they go out and they'll say, like, you've caught lightning in a bottle. We've heard that saying before. Sure. And then what the industries will do is they'll try and go out and make bottles. They'll go out and make things that are shaped the same and look the same, and then they sell it as, like, if you liked this, here's this. Well, what I always tell my students is that that's what AI can do right now. It can make bottles. It can make things that are shaped like the thing, that look like the thing, you feel it, but it lacks that electricity. It lacks the lightning. So as I'm giving my speech, this is when I tell them, I'm like, you are the lightning. You know, your story, your own experiences, the things that have yet to be uploaded into AI, that is the thing that's why you need to tell your story.
Yeah, man. I applaud that.
No. Yes, please, go ahead.
This may be too specific.
Nothing's to anything. Just go, man.
Yeah.
Does college football have a future?
Well, and the next book this is the start of a series, which is new for me. The next book is set in 2023, so it is set in a cottage. But here's what I think they need to pay the most attention to. Okay, first off, well, I'll just say this. Here's the thing I think they need to pay the most attention to. Is something like a super league or something, which is where it seems like it's all going, you know, where the 20 to 30th teams that are. If that happens, I think that the quality of the sport, like the quality of the entertainment value, will be lessened. You know, like right now, the reason we watch College Game Day is for the uniqueness of the places they are, the fact that they could be at like some North Dakota, you know, and you get to see all that culture, and that's what's good about college football. That's why we all have your own teams and your own things and your own traditions. But if it becomes just 20 or 30 teams that are all playing each other all the time, then it really is a second-rate, like, NFL. Like, we're not there yet, but I'm really afraid that if that happens, then I don't know what the future holds. But paying the players is important, and that's a big part of this book. And I know so many people have an issue with that, and that's one thing. Like, if you read this book, it's set to be an alternate history. It's set to be a fictional federal investigation, but there's a lot of really true things, you know, that is also supposed to be a little funny. But you should have an opinion when you finish and think, like, the fact that those kids didn't get paid for as long as we kept them from getting paid, while universities were making multiple $1 million and using it as a free advert, it was crazy. You know, it's really interesting. So Anyway, soapbox over.
Well, we are coming close to the end of our time together, and my colleagues would like to end the way they began, with a song, and I'm sure they would welcome it now that y'all know each other. You've asked good questions. You know these good people. You know their hearts and their minds, that you might sing along with them. What are y'all going to sing?
Should we do that?
Again, this was dreamed up last night over dinner. And before they begin, I want to remind y'all that each one of these nice people will be in the signing tent at 4:15. And I don't want to sound crass, but you know, it's important to writers who hit the road. They've worked on these books and they want to engage y'all more than just on this stage. The best thing you could possibly do would be to buy their book and read their book and then talk to them again. So I hope you'll consider that. 4:15 in the signing tent.
All right. I was trying to figure out if I should do like a really quiet one, Mexican Home, or if we'll do Spanish Pipe Dream, yeah? Do any of you know that song? You guys know John Prine songs?
Yeah.
You know that one, Blow Up Your TV?
Yeah.
Throw away your papers? All right. Blow up your screen. We'll have to change it a little bit for modern time. Blow up your iPhone. Blow up your iPhone. All right. She was a level-headed dancer on the road to alcohol, and I was just a soldier on my way to Montreal. Well, she pressed her chest against me about the time the jukebox broke. She gave me a peck on the back of my neck. These are the words she spoke. Blow up your TV, throw away your papers, move to the country, build you a home, plant a little garden, eat a lot of peaches, try to find Jesus on your own. Should I do another verse?
Yeah.
Well, I sat there at the table and I acted real naive, 'cause I knew that topless lady, she had something up her sleeve. Well, she danced around the bar room and she did that hoochie coo, singing the song all night long, telling me what to do. Blow up your TV, throw away your papers, move to the country, build you a home, plant a little garden, eat a lot of peaches, try to find Jesus on your own. Try to find Jesus on your own, and the rest can just be a little coda at the end. You can see it for yourself later. Okay.